Hello and welcome to episode 59 of Things I Learned from Barry Harris. Today I thought we would discuss Barry's family, or playing with family of dominance, where it comes from, and a song that we can use it in that it's very applicable. So first things first, let's take a look at where the family of dominance comes from. Barry has a theory that starts off with 12 notes of the chromatic scale, which breaks apart into two whole tone scales, still equals the 12 notes. Then you take two notes from one whole tone scale, two notes from another whole tone scale, and you have a diminished. You do that two more times. So you have three diminishes, all coming from that original 12 notes. So now, in order to find out what his family is or what's connected, what we do is we'll take a diminished, like we'll take C diminished. And then to find out what four dominants are connected to that, all you do is lower one note of the diminished, which would be C diminished. If you lower the C, it's B7. If you lower the F sharp to F, it's F7. If you lower the A to A flat or G sharp, it's A flat 7. If you lower the D sharp to D, it's D7. So now that gives you four dominants. So the C diminished, which is C, E flat, F sharp or G flat, A, then gives you four dominants, which happen to also make up a diminished. It gives you B7, it gives you D7, it gives you F7, and it gives you A flat 7. So now you have C diminished and B diminished. And that's where you get your, what Barry hates when it's called half step, whole step diminished scale. He hates that because it doesn't explain where it comes from, but that's where you get that scale from. You put those two together. That's where they come from. Now, also important to that is the four dominants that now we know are family. So that's B7, D7, F7, and A flat 7. So let's discuss that for a second, and we'll do it through a song. We'll say All the Things You Are, and particularly the bridge. So the bridge for All the Things You Are, the sheet music or the real book has A minor 7 for a measure, D7 for a measure, G major for two measures. But Barry doesn't like that chord. And then it has F sharp minor 7 to B7 going to E major. Same amount of time too. F sharp minor for a measure, B7 for a measure, E major. Barry likes to say, instead of A minor 7, Barry says A minor 7 flat 5. Going to G major. And the same thing for F sharp minor. Going to B7 to E major. And then some kind of C augmented or something to get back to F. But so let's just take apart that little bit. So when you have A half diminished to D7, Barry likes to think of that the scales for that being F7 up and down to the third of D. And for the F sharp minor 7 flat 5 to B7, he likes thinking of that as D7 up and down to the third of B. So if we were going to play the scales for the bridge of All the Things You Are, it would be F7 up and down to the third of D. G major up and down. Then D7 up and down to the third of B. E major up. And then probably E flat 7 down to the third of C. So let's do the wholes, all the scales. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the scales for the bridge. Now, how do we figure out how to play between those? Here's where playing with family starts to come in. So let's take the first chord, which is A half diminished in D7, and as I said before, Barry likes to think of that as F7 scale. So all the things you know for F7 scale, which means scale up and down, scale in thirds, scale in triads, scale in chords, the half step rules, the important arpeggios, which are found on the root, the fifth, and the flat seventh, everything that's included in that. So let's say we started on, let's start on tonic, and we'll put 1/2 step. But let's start on tonic. We'll run up to second, then go back down to tonic, and we'll put 1/2 step. So it's going to sound like this. So, and we'll put it down to the third of D. And we'll start it on, let's see, the second beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we'll pivot a diminished to G major. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was just one little idea. Maybe we'll start on F7 and we'll start on the tonic and we'll put a 1/2 step in between tonic and second. And then we'll come down the important arpeggio on the 5th of F7 would be C minor. So maybe we'll come down that important arpeggio from the 5th. So we'll say, let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's really beautiful. Now let's do F7. That's F7 into D7. Now let's do F7 into D7's tritone, which is A flat 7, which is also a family member. So let's say, let's do the same thing. Yeah, let's do this. Let's see. And now we're on the let's see. We're on the 6th of the F7, but we're also a 1/2 step away from A flat. So maybe we'll do this. Now we're on the tonic of A flat 7. Now one of the things you could do is put 1/2 step. And then maybe we'll surround the 5th of G and come down 4/3. So let me just see what that sounds like. Pretty, you know, not the greatest phrase in the world, but maybe let's try something different. That time I did the same 1/2 step again between tonic and second, but of A flat 7. So you see how many ways you start to get involved, and the important thing is that you resolve nicely. That's the whole thing, is you resolve either from D7 to G major, or you resolve pretty from A flat 7 to G major, or something, but don't just leave it. Make sure you resolve something pretty. So now that's F7 into D7, F7 into A flat 7. Now let's take the second set of chord changes, which is F sharp minor 7 flat 5 to B7, which we said before was D7 going to down to the 3rd of B. So let's take that, which is pretty. I just started on the D and I put 1/2 step down to the 3rd of B7, and maybe we can come up a diminished, which is pretty because now we're resolving to E major. Or we could have done 1/2 step. Now I want to do B7's tritone, which is F7. So let's see what we could do. That's pretty too. So when I got to the, let's see, that would be prettier. So we said 1/2 step between D7, between the D and the C. And then I got to the 2nd of F7 and I just came down a chord. Let's see. That was really pretty. So I just came down a second from the 2nd of the F7, which is the tritone of B7. But this goes back to the importance of understanding how to play with family. Barry always says, when you grow up, you play with family first. You play with brothers and sisters. And that's what he equates running D7 into A flat 7, or running D7 into F7, or running D7 into B7, and how many different times you use it. Now, what's interesting is this first octatonic, this first octatonic thing that we were doing, that can be used over the whole bridge. So now you got. Oh wait, sorry for D. So the octatonic scale, or the what Barry likes to call it's the family of dominants, and then it's the C diminished and then the tonic of the dominants, which would be B, D, F, and A flat. You can play that over the whole bridge. We'll start at the same spot, but maybe we'll start here. Wait. It just shows you that, and something I'm discovering too for myself is that being able to talk about Barry's theory and recite his theory is great, and the understanding part is first, but really understanding it and seeing it on your instrument is much more important. So, for instance, like, I think I've known about these family of dominants for, I mean, I heard about it first, probably like the first couple of times I was in his class in 1993. So flash forward ahead, still this stuff just now is starting to really make sense to me, and I'm starting to really see it on a grander scale and using all the things that I know for each dominant scale. So my suggestion to practicing this kind of stuff would be, start by saying, okay, let me just practice one dominant scale, a D7 scale. Okay, I'm going to really practice that D7 scale. And I want to know it every place on my instrument. So I want to know it here, I want to know it here, I want to know it starting on different fingers. Then after that, you say, okay, now I'm going to try to play a movement with it. So D7 going to G major. Okay, that's pretty. But maybe I might want to do D7, running it into B7, running it into E major. Where would we use that? Well, the bridge of all the things you are. So when you start to see one of the family members play with the other family member, you start to hear many more beautiful sounds. You also start to see your fretboard much better, or I'm sure in a way you're visualizing your horn or the piano or whatever, and you're seeing it better. And then it starts to make more sense, both physically and to your ear. It's going to make more sense. But and that's one of the main reasons why I continue making these videos, is because it's not like this is old stuff and I have it together. I'm still discovering. I mean, I'm scratching the surface on it the same way most people are. So anyway, I hope this was helpful to understanding how to play Barry's family of dominants. Until next time, thanks.